So today I wanted to go over some notes that I got from my buddy Kurt Anderson. A long time ago, Kurt was teaching a class in how to storyboard at the Animation Union, and I took that class back then, and this is the handout that he had for it, and it goes over the basics of how to do storyboards. And he starts with this panel up top. Well, he starts with his writing up here. It says, at the beginning of the storyboard, always write the show title, the production number, the writer's name, and then your name. Take responsibility for what you're doing. An establishing shot, he says, is an absolute must. At the beginning of the cartoon, you have to have an establishing shot. You can make that shot a pan shot, where we start here and pan across over here. You can make it a tilt field pan, where we start here on a tilt and stop down here of the same setup. Or you can do an up shot or a down shot. But what this does is establishes where your action, your story is taking place. So that's why it's important to start with an establishing shot. You can also do a vertical pan, which would start up top and pan down. Tilt field is something that you can use to show movement on a pan, and you get a better effect that way with your background going past on a tilt field sometime. When you're doing your storyboard, he says, always think in terms of long shot, medium shot, and close-up shot. Do an interesting combination of these three and you'll have a good storyboard. Use your own intuition, your own feeling when it comes to setting up the shot that might be better than what the script calls for. Don't change the dialogue. So what he means there is sometimes a writer will actually put on his script where he thinks long shot, medium shot, close-up goes. It's up to you to figure out where that stuff is happening. Not the writer. This is your job to figure out, here's where we need a close-up, here's where we need a medium shot. Here he says, develop a keen sense of direction. If a character exits right, make sure he enters the next scene from the left. And what that means is that this character here is looking to the right and he's going to turn and run out. When he runs into the next shot, he has to run in from the left side of the screen. Because he left screen right, he has to enter from screen left to keep that sense of direction in continuity. When you are doing more than one sequence, always have a sense of direction going one direction for one sequence and the next direction go in the opposite direction for most of your actions. And this is geared towards Saturday morning cartoons back in those days. All the cartoons were either 11 minutes or 22 minutes. Make the storyboard appealing to everybody, to the audience. Add personality and backgrounds to your storyboards. Do an interesting background. This guy is walking along like a beach. There's a tree in the background. There's bushes here. There's a bush in the foreground. And he walks in this way. That's a lot better to look at than something like this, which is just a stick figure, piece of paper, nondescript scribbles in the back to indicate something. He also says work in the mediums that you're comfortable with, pencils, markers, whatever you like. Here's an important part here. He says, if a layout artist gets a good storyboard to work with, he can improve on it. You have to spark his enthusiasm. This is when we had layout. Layout was the step between storyboards and animation. Very important step. Nowadays, the work goes from storyboard directly to animation, leaving out layout, which solves a lot of problems in the storyboard. Here he says, if your character is going to come into a shot, always establish the shot first and then have the guy come into the shot. here he's saying Xerox down in size or Xerox up. Characters are walking, running away from camera or coming to camera. You could do this one pose, and nowadays it would be copy and paste, but back then we had to Xerox it down by percentages or Xerox it up in percentages to show the size change. Now this is explaining truck ins and truck outs. In other words, starting wide and then trucking in tight, or starting tight and trucking out wide. So this will bring your attention to one spot or start your attention in a tight spot and come out to show the entire picture. Here he says, don't fall in love with your work. Always be prepared to make changes. The scripts are always changing, so you can make changes. You have to go to revisions because the script has changed. Back then, they would print the script first on white, but then as they made changes, those changes would be redone in blue, pink, or yellow pages, depending on how many times the scripts are revised. Now, next thing he's explaining is a fade-in usually signals the very beginning opening of the cartoon, and the fade-in usually is the fade-out, the end of the cartoon, or the first act. And this is how they indicate it usually. They would put a little triangle here, this is fade in, and a triangle here, this is fade out. A wipe, this is how we get from one sequence to another. So here we're starting with this character down here, and we're going to wipe to the next shot, which is an upshot of the amusement park sign. Another way to go from one sequence to another is to a dissolve, and that is indicated like this. Dissolve with a triangle here that says DISS2 colon, and then it goes to the next shot here. Cross dissolve means that there's a slight overlapping of one scene to another done in camera, and it's doing basically a fade in and a fade out at the same time over each other. So here he's saying before you do any drawing, it's a good idea to plan and lay out all your dialogue sequences, establish a good sense of direction for each sequence. Once you've done that, you have just visualized what the whole board will look like by solving all the problems in advance. So what that means is they used to give you a script and you would figure out on blank storyboard paper where everything was going to happen, and you could write in blue pencil on that paper what you wanted to happen where. You could indicate where you wanted all the dialogue and the screen direction to go, descriptive dialogue, descriptive captions, and you would make little tiny blue sketches, get a feel for the flow of the storyboard. Then you would take that script page, cut out all the wordage, and use spray mount to spray it and adhere it to your storyboard paper. So you would have like all this stuff here says dissolve, that would be cut out and pasted down, or you would write it, dissolve. Then you would cut out and paste down the descriptive dialogue under the panel. And then if there was a character here talking, you would cut out and paste down his dialogue underneath it. That way you get a good idea as to where your board is going and how your board's going to look. So I will put up a link to all these pages on my website so that you can download these pages and learn from them. And you'll see them up close and in person on the website. So until next time, keep drawing and keep having fun.